So, welcome to another segment of my chemistry videos as we continue with metals. So, today we are focusing on alloys. So, the first question that you need to understand is what is an alloy? So, remember that an alloy is simply a mixture of two or more metals. So, that is what we can say. So, an alloy is a mixture of two or more metals. So that is the way we can define an alloy. But others may actually define an alloy. We can simply say an alloy is a mixture. So we can simply say is a mixture of a metal with another element. So that is what we mean. So that can be an alloy. Now I want you to understand that when it comes to an alloy, in order for you to create what we are calling as being an alloy can either be a mixture of maybe a metal and another metal, or you can even use two or more metals. That is what we mean. Or an alloy can be a mixture of a metal and a non-metal. So it is possible that you can also use a non-metal. So that is what you need to remember. So that is what we are talking about as being an alloy. Now, alloys, because they are mixtures, as we are saying, because they are mixtures, the combination of alloys is physical. That is what you need to remember. So the combination, so we can simply say that the combination of alloys is physical, meaning that an alloy can be separated by physical means because the combination is simply physical. Another thing that you need to remember is that alloys are harder than the metal from which they are made from. So you need to remember that alloys are harder than the metals from which they are made. Now, what do we mean when we say that alloys are harder than the metals from which they are made? Well, you are going to find that an alloy, basically, for example, I can say that you are going to find that an alloy is going to have you know more hardness, or is going to be more hard. So it is going to have more hardness. That is what we mean. It is also going to have resistance to corrosion. It is going to become more resistant to corrosion than the metal from which it is actually gotten. So that is what you need to remember about alloys. So they are harder than the metals from which they are made from. So in the exam, it is always important get to know to define what an alloy. It's simply a mixture of two or more metals, or a mixture of a metal and a non-metal, or a mixture of a metal with another element. So that other element could either be a metal or it could be a non-metal. Now, of course, remember, alloys can be separated by physical means, and alloys are actually harder than the metals from which they are made from. So that is what you need to remember. Why? Because they are more harder. They are more resistant to corrosion. So in terms of strength, they are actually more harder. So let's talk about, in this case, what are the advantages of alloying. So we can talk about advantages. So what are the advantages of alloys? So what are the advantages? Why are alloys very important in this case? Well, number one, I can simply tell you that they have a high, tensile strength. So that is what we mean. So they have a high tensile, strength. So that is what you need to remember. So they have a high tensile strength. So in terms of their strength, they are very good. They have got a high, tensile strength. Apart from that, alloys have actually increased. We can simply say increased resistance. So they have got increased resistance to corrosion. So increased resistance to corrosion. That is what we mean. A very good example that I can give you, most of the materials that are used in making teapots, there's that material which we simply call as being pewter. So pewter is makes the teapots to become very shiny. That is what we mean. So pewter is used in making teapots very shiny, so that makes it to be resistant to corrosion. Apart from that, another advantage that we can talk about, let me call it as being number 3. Another advantage of alloying is that usually alloys have got an improved metal appearance. So their appearance is simply going to be improved. No wonder, like I was saying about the teapot, it is simply going to, to look, more shiny. Why? Because they are made up of an element called pewter. And pewter mainly consists of elements such as copper. It is going to have what we call as being antimony, and about 97% is going to be tin. So these are the elements that are found in what we are calling as being pewter. Another advantage of alloys that you need to remember is that they are durable. So we can say they are durable. So they are durable and reliable. So that is what we can talk about. So those are some of the advantages of alloys that you need to remember in an exam. Watch out for my next segment as we look at now different alloys and what they contain and their uses. So that is what we are going to look at in my next. So we are going to look at different alloys and also their uses.